How are we doing, ladies and gentlemen? Dave, Dan, and everyone in between. Welcome to week 10. Dave and a Dan. How is everybody doing? Hopefully your week went well. Hopefully some of your bets went well. I mean, because you asked for bets, we tried to sneak as many as we possibly could with what limited information we had. And there's a certain guy, I mean, the name of the show is not a Dan and another Dan. It's a Dave and a Dan. And let me tell you something. If there was a great play that you got in there right as we just had the first opening line available for Brock Bowers, and I included some of the alts on the screen as you were talking about it, and man, were you right on the money with that one, with Brock Bowers just feasting, looking completely healthy. And that's why it's great to be one sniff ahead, because you took that 54.5. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, when you said it, it was at 49.5, a 50-yard line. If you smacked that, you know what? Just tell us, how high did you smack that Brock Bowers alt bet?
I didn't ladder it, man, and I'll tell you why. So on Sunday, by the way, glad to have you guys hanging out. Andy, good to see you. So Sunday I do like a lot of DFS content, right? And I'm building my own lineups. I have basically a 2-hour show, and I get word that Devin Lloyd, like, I wanted him to be out because I think he plays a really integral role in that Jacksonville defense. And I see, he's not expected to play even though he practiced. So let me go hammer Bowers, and I hit that. But then I still have to get all the lineups in. I had all this other stuff to do. I was like, I'll come back and I'll find the best odds to ladder it, because I needed to find all the best alt lines, and I never did. Now, it is what it is. It's still a win. I still threw it up on tails. We talked about it here. So everybody had the opportunity to do that on their own. Did I get in on that? No. I mean, did I bet Bowers? Of course. Yeah, it felt like the best spot. And you mentioned everyone was so soured on him. But it's not just that he was injured and he missed games. Brock Bowers was injured in the games he was playing, right? So it just drug everything down. And then ended up, I mean, he hit the over on that, I think it was like 10 minutes left in the third quarter. Those are just sometimes good spots. Like, I took a shot on Jameson Williams ladder up to 100. He got us north of 60, still profitable on that. You mentioned it and brought it up on this show. They made a concerted effort to get him the ball in the second half of that game. He ended up scoring. Sometimes it's going to work. Sometimes you don't hit every rung of the ladder. But the buy low spots, to your point on Bowers and Jameson Williams, when you're laddering guys, you want to buy low on them, right? Like, that's what we're trying to do here.
Let me tell you something. It fully counts. If the only fact was that you personally didn't get the clicks in with enough time because you just had so many things going on, doesn't matter. It still counts for all intent and purpose. It's not like you said, hey, this guy's playing, we shouldn't take those Bowers. No, you threw the Bowers out there. It was the perfect call for both. Well, I hope you got to enjoy him in DFS at least.
Oh, dude,
if that was your sniff.
Yeah, I had a ton of him in ended up being a great DFS day. So yeah, that works.
See, it all works out in the end. I mean, it really doesn't, but it did in that case with Brock Bowers. So we'll see what limited options we have, or potential guys maybe we can look at from that perspective. But as our old friend who gave us that great / not so great, depending on if all the viewers took it last week, the Boutte. Now you know what it's like being up here, huh, sir? You throw something out there, you become a hero one week, then I bring it to all the other viewers, they all take the Boutte alts, and he leaves the game in like the first or second quarter, gets nothing, you lose all your bets. So that's kind of that's the unfortunate truth. You got chuckied, everybody. That's what getting Chucky's, that guy said it. I saw the doll that was alive and killing people. I told you about it. It went back to, hi, I'm Chucky. But that's kind of one of the ways that you can get screwed. There are other ways you can get screwed, according to most of the viewers out there, most of the people who kind of live in the sports betting world. And it's something that has come up in the last year. I love poking fun at it, but you know, this is a great time to bring it up, because I think a couple people have asked me to talk. Well, why don't you talk about it? You know, listen to the orcs and you'll be sitting amongst them at the wall of Helm's Deep, just banging a stick and screaming, because first you don't want the donkey charge, then you want the pigs, then you want me to talk about things being rigged. Everyone's like, oh, I told you it's all rigged. Now, I think we should just take a second and talk about certain things being rigged. A lot of riggings have come up in the last couple of weeks. You have some basketball riggings where you've had players now taking themselves out of games. You have Chauncey Billups running the Austin Powers, X-ray poker tables where you can see the cards that are under there. So you've had that. You've had guys being approached in the UFC about throwing fights. You've had tennis being met. So here's what I'm going to tell all of you people. The whole rigged crowd, here's what you can do. Every single rigging in this case is no different than the type of riggings that I said would absolutely potentially occur. Every single case, from Tim Donaghy to it's literally Italian mafia criminals approaching somebody to make money. I will never, ever, ever argue the fact that there's going to be crooked people trying to seduce individuals to screw bets like that. My whole contention is when you go, no, the Taylor Swift, they're going to push them to win. Like the league actually has meetings to push teams to win because Taylor Swift is sitting in the audience. If that was truly the case, this multi-billion-dollar industry known as the NFL, all you're going to do is make sure that you have the most watched pop stars dating the most, viewed quarterbacks. You'd have Lamar Jackson with somebody. Yeah. It would be a whole ordeal
and it would be easy to do.
Yeah. I'll show you how to start rigging things because nothing's more rotten than my mind. Nothing could be more conspiratorial than my mind. I won't let somebody borrow a book because I fear they're going to take note of what I highlighted and say like, oh, this idiot needed to highlight that and use that against me at a later date. Who knows? Is that going to happen? Probably not. But the thought is always in there. I think that double stuffed Oreos have the same exact amount of stuffing as single stuffed Oreos. They just use a fluffer. Yes. No. And I'll have you take the test that have made similar skeptics go, damn, would have never thought about something like that. And then they make it a blood. Like, what's wrong with you for even thinking that? So if you take two single stuffed Oreos, put them together, and then take a double stuffed Oreo, you're going to notice which one tastes incredibly better. I'm not talking about the actual amount of stuffing. That is going to look similar, but it's in terms of concentration, it's like when your mom used to put water in the jug of iced tea. It's the same amount of concentration of stuffing with fluff element. Okay. So you have the illusion of double stuffing. And if you want to know what a true double stuffed Oreo tastes like, take two single stuffed Oreos, remove one side, take the two thicker sides, put them together, and you're going to say that is a double stuffed Oreo. So that's how my mind works. And I do not doubt the fact that, some, deli order sounding names, some Stromboli, some Rigatoni, some whoever approached a player about checking himself out of a game and cutting side deals. That's always going to be the case. I mean, rigging in boxing, the main event guy hires the judges for the fight. That's a known thing. If Floyd Mayweather's fighting, his team puts together the fight and pays the judges who have to judge his fight. There's all sorts of rigging in those regards. But where I will always laugh is that the league actually orchestrated something because they know about your $10 miserable bet. That is where I step in. And then lastly, aside from all of this, let's say I can see everything's rigged, the Taylor Swift thing's rigged, the NHL somehow. I mean, I don't even know how they would do that when the best players are just taking a shift every couple of minutes. And if a goalie starts letting things in, he's just going to get pulled. Let's say it's all rigged. Every last thing is rigged. If I go to EDC and somebody slips something in my drink, it's not right. Somebody shouldn't do that. But as a guy who's voluntarily going to a drug-fueled party, that's one of the results. Like, I'll never judge you guys. I'll never judge you. You got sports bet till the end of time. Wake up, bet your cricket, all that stuff. I'm not in the judgment business. But if you're going to come in here and let's say you get screwed by one of these NBA player props because it was right, that's one of the potential results. This is not like, elementary school where you expect everything to go properly. You're talking about sports betting, which, yes, it's legal, it's more normalized, but it's still illegal in states, and it's a snake-oriented business. So when snake-oriented things happen, just understand that's one of the possible things that can happen. An Italian reaching out to somebody, making a crooked side deal, and that's what potentially happens. So I don't know how you feel about all these potential riggings. Dave, I think I saw you put something funny is now everybody's going to go back and question every minuscule thing that happened in a game. And now that was probably rigged. It's all rigged.
Yeah, it's all. I mean, the Rozier thing and the Billups thing was bizarre, right? Because like Billups, they didn't tie the poker ring right to bet to the Blazers, but apparently there were instances where like, they found out that the Blazers were in tank mode and were going to sit starters, and money came in there. It's like, I wonder who, I wonder who could have let them know that. Certainly not the head coach, right? Look, I don't want to get in trouble for defamation. I Billups would never do that, but with Rozier, it's like the guy's already making so much money. It's such an insane thing. You had the Jonte Porter thing as well. Like, there's just something wrong with a lot of these people. But overall, it's not rigged. You're going, I'll tell you guys something even crazier. Here's the wild thing. Let's just say there is this like swath of rigged spots, right? That, you are, unbeknownst to you, but they exist. If you're somebody that, is not only an overs better, you probably won on a bunch of those rigged bets too. Like Greg Ehrenberg got sucked up into that whole thing.
Oh, that was hysterical.
People really thought that he was in on it. No, he had just placed an underbet on Rozier that day because of the number, and he won the bet, right? So it was rigged. It actually was rigged, and he won and had zero prior knowledge. It was $100 bet. That stuff happens for every game that you think is rigged to one side. There are people who won it on the other side, right? That were unaware of any potential rigging. So it goes two ways, man. You have these sports books now that are literally paying out injured players. They're either they're not paying them out, but they're voiding the bets. I don't even, and people, you guys aren't going to like this, I don't think they should void bets for injuries at all.
Of course not.
I don't think they should void bets for any of that stuff. You void a bet if you have a player who never steps on the court, right? Or who never steps on the field. But if a guy goes out there and you bet the over and in the first 10 minutes of the game he gets hurt, you shouldn't be voided. And I'll tell you why. If you went out, let's say, Luka and LeBron are out there, right? LeBron's healthy, Luka's healthy, you start the game. You bet the overs on LeBron James. Luka Doncic gets hurt in the first 5 minutes of that game, right? Then they shouldn't just void your overs on Luka. They should void everything on LeBron as well, because now LeBron is directly impacted by what happened to Luka, who is a high usage player that's going to touch the ball 90 times a game. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's all directly correlated. So, all right, void Luka. But all of you who had the LeBron overs as well, I guess we have to void those LeBron overs because you benefit directly from Luka's injury. Look, I love the everyday average casual sports bettor, and I like originating goofy bets as well. But I'm also grounded in reality. Things are going to go against us, and we're going to have a lot of times where you may actually have a pretty sick bet and you lose it because of injury. And you just said it. Every time you place submit bet, right? You're opening yourselves up to something going wrong. And that's all there is to it.
Yeah. When you click, every time you click submit, just go, the mafia might get me, but that's known. Yep. Dink. And then hit and just stop complaining about it. Yep. Because I'll tell you this, the other night, there's a guy on the Sabres named Ryan McLeod who we took every single guy on the line to get a point, and the whole line cleared on one goal. So we thought. Later on, they removed a point. Fanatics paid it out. People are celebrating. I said, hey, guys, just by the way, Sportsbook's kind of nice to you, aren't they? And it's like they begrudgingly just went, LOL. Yeah, because they got paid on something they shouldn't have. Yet they never take the time to realize you have money that you shouldn't have. And there are errors that go that way. There are errors that go the other way. I'm not standing up for these rat bastard sportsbooks. I'm screaming at Caesars, BetMGM, please add point props to same game parlays in the NHL. There are no sportsbooks advertisements here. I don't care about every last one of them. If one offers NHL line combinations and same game parlays, I will pat them on the back. If they start ruining the prices like DraftKings does, I'll say, hey, DraftKings is ruining the prices. What rat bastards. But as far as the rigging thing, just know there's going to be some Italians involved every once in a while, especially if you get involved with, individual fights and things of that nature. I don't care. Look what we're doing here, okay? You're placing money on sports bets. That's one of the potential things, all right? You smoke weed, you might get some, I don't know, some bronchial issues. Just know there's a trickle down.
If any of that, by the way, came off as me capping for sports books, that's certainly not what I was doing. I just think there are bigger fish to fry. Like restricting profitable bettors or those who get closing line value. Like, you know what I mean? Like to take predatory nature of a lot of sports books. Like that's what I'm saying. I don't think not voiding a bet for an injury, I don't think they're doing anything wrong. You know what I do think is wrong? Like offering terrible boosts that aren't actually boosts and then putting them front and center so unsuspecting bettors are intentionally betting minus EV bets all of the time. Or, real quickly, or continuously allowing, essentially reverse limiting a losing bettor to where they can bet however much they want. But the moment you find that somebody maybe, and I understand why books have to limit to some extent, right, to stay in business, but you can't, but just to say we will only accept long-term losing bettors, and the moment we sniff you getting positive closing line value or constantly profiting or something like that, instead of them maybe closing up a leak or having better odds, right? Where I get it, rec books aren't always going to have the best odds. I'm just saying there's bigger fish to fry out there than, not voiding an injury.
What's insane is with those NHL line combinations, it's actually been very up and down, way worse so far than it was last year. And do you know I'm weirdly happy because knowing in the long run, when it gets hot, it's going to get really hot and you could really start winning. But I'm hoping that, okay, these losses here bought us more leash on the back end. It's become so sick that I'm hoping for losses at the right time, like a pool shark, hoping that the losses are good enough to make the algorithm give us more leash to really start winning without nuking the odds yet again. It's become a sick thing where I accept awful closing line value in the hopes to keep my leash even longer. These are the dirty things that they don't really talk about. But I know maybe some of you don't even want me to talk about that. You want to talk about some NFL player props, some sniffs that we potentially have on the agenda. I want to talk about a game that we have this weekend. We saw the Buffalo Bills kind of, they had a bunch of underwhelming games, came out of the bye, destroyed Carolina. It's like, okay, well, what does that mean? Are they really going to have a signature performance? You said you would have taken the Bills with the points. That ended up being good. But now are they potentially in line for some sort of letdown spot against the lifeless, fired their GM, Miami Dolphins?
And by the way, what you're doing, for those of you curious to avoid limits, to mask that type of action, doing it with same game parlays is actually one of the good ways to do it, because even if you are getting closing line value on them, it's very difficult for the algorithms, at least from everything I've seen over the years, to be able to flag that closing line value like they can on straight bets, right? Even parlays in general. So if you're getting plus EV parlays, and I know you are with the way that you operate with NHL, correlated same game parlays for these NHL bets, it's still a lot harder to be able to flag that.
What's funny? I gave out before I go to sleep, I'll see the point props for the next day. I know which ones are a good value. I give those out. For example, Seattle Kraken have a player who's on the top line, on the top power play. Sometimes I'll just DM them to you just to show you kind of like what it's like. And this guy, Eli Tolvanen, point was plus 132. If you put him and his two top line mates for a point, that's obviously going to shoot at a nice price. I wake up, His point prop is plus 105. Now the entire line combination is still very good. It's he's a plus 105 with a minus 130. But by the time I put it in, I intentionally don't put it in early so that I have more of a donkey play to give myself a longer leash. It's the sick world we live in. But it's like we're fighting this super chess computer. You gotta make the right moves. You gotta concede one of those little pawns to really take one of their rooks. And I feel like sometimes that's what I'm doing with some of those bets. But anyway, looking at this Bills-Dolphins game, is this a letdown spot for the Bills?
I don't think it's a letdown spot necessarily. Miami just got rid of Jalen Phillips, which he wasn't having a great year, but he goes back with Vic Fangio, who he had his best season with as their DC in 2023. They didn't actually offload that many people. There were calls for Waddle. They wanted too much. I'm sure there were calls for D.Achane. It is in Miami. Miami kept this game close last time they played. If you remember, this was a Thursday game last time they played, and the Dolphins actually had a shot of tying this game up late in the fourth quarter until Tua threw a bad pick in the red zone. And then Buffalo came down, kicked the field goal, ended up, I believe, winning by 10. I don't want to lay the points on Buffalo here, but I do think it's a decent teaser piece on a week like this. You could combine this in a 3-team teaser, and everyone always, teasers are by far the type of bets where people go, man, they can't lose. Like this, how could I possibly lose this 3-team 7-point teaser? I fall victim to it as well sometimes. They're also fun, right?
I remember in the playoffs, it was the Lions who ruined your big 3-team teaser because we're like, all right, well, the Lions are just going to stomp Washington. Yeah, there's always one
and guess what?
Ultra rat.
The Lions ruined my 3-team teaser last week as well. Because I had
ruiners,
I had the Rams.
man, ruiners.
Yep, I had the Rams, I had the Chargers, and I had Detroit. But I still am willing to go back to some small plays on a teaser because dude, this is so funny you'd mention that. I really think Detroit steamrolls Washington this week. I mean, if you want to talk about, I know, man. But Jaden Daniels is out. There's no Terry McLaurin. They don't even have Luke McCaffrey. Marshawn Lattimore is done for the year, which might actually be beneficial to the Washington Commanders. They have a bunch of. I mean, it feels like they're just lifeless at this point. There are some opportunities to tease if you wanted to tease. I'm not saying you have to, but I do think Buffalo would make for a decent teaser play. I don't want to lay the 9.5 because it is a divisional spot, and Buffalo still has a rough run defense. Last week, we both talked about it. 2.5-point dogs against that Chiefs team. You got to win. Another thing to consider, the New England Patriots are atop the AFC East right now. Like they're 7-2. The Buffalo can't just coast in these games anymore. So, I think there's an argument to be made that this could be a big teaser piece. If you wanted to, you could tease them with Denver. I'm less confident in that. For some reason, the Denver offense has not looked right outside of that game against the Dallas Cowboys.
I wanted to tell you, I had it in I don't have many notes for this. What a scam they are. They really are. No, they really are. Like if you go, so Giants game, that's a loss. An unnecessary throw by Jackson Dart that should have been a run, and there just wouldn't mathematically have been enough time for them to win that game. So that's one loss. The Eagles game, they were getting stomped. We'll give them credit for the fourth quarter. Sure. Fine. There was the you have this past week, CJ Stroud goes down, and then they find a way to eke that out. There are so many games that were essentially lost that they pulled from the jaws of defeat. They still have 2 games left with the Chiefs. They're not winning that division. I see so many scam tendencies with that team.
So
great defense, and they can rely on that. But I feel like they're set to have a bunch. We've seen this happen a bunch of times. We see it with the Chiefs. Bunch of close wins. Eventually, those close losses are coming, and I feel like they're on some borrowed time, and they owe a couple of losses to everybody out there. But I wanted to bring up with the Buffalo Bills going into that last game. What was their Achilles heel against most teams?
You say the Bills?
Yeah,
it was their run defense.
Yeah, so their run defense, which has been abysmal. Kareem Hunt's as dusty as they come. The Chiefs have been throwing the ball more than anybody. It was hard for them to get off of that. Even with dusty Kareem Hunt not getting a ton of work, he still was able to get, I believe, north of 50 yards,
I think
something
it was
like that.
49 because I bet the over. I had the over posted on tails for Kareem Hunt in that game too, but he cleared his over.
So now it's just natural for me to bring this guy up with a little extra rest. And after that embarrassing Thursday night football loss, we saw, why am I, Ollie Gordon? I was thinking, who's John Oliver? Oh, that's the HBO guy?
Well, there's an Oliver for the Minnesota Vikings.
Is John Oliver the HBO guy?
Yeah.
So Ollie Gordon, who's not John Oliver, left that last game. I imagine he'll be ready to go by this game, but he wasn't able to continue in that game. Some sort of ankle injury. We saw them use Achane a ton. I'm not saying that's going to be the case. I mean, if Ollie Gordon doesn't play, they're going to have Jalen Wright active. He's going to get his fair share of work. But against this extremely susceptible run defense, who wasn't really tested too much against the Kansas City Chiefs because the Chiefs never, I don't blame them. They can't stop themselves from throwing, especially when they had all their weapons back, and they ended up trailing in that game by a few scores. But here, you got to think D.Achane is going to be getting his fair share of opportunities in a game where they're at home. Many of these games, the Dolphins have been able to kind of linger. And even if they don't linger, it's not like Tua's throwing it all over the field. 60 or 61 and a half rushing yards for D.Achane, a guy who has that breakaway speed and could have 10 carries for 13 yards and then win you that bet easily on one dinky carry. I think that's all right. 61 and a half for Achane.
Yeah. I don't hate it at all. I want to see. I was thinking about his rushing plus receiving, but I do like the rushing here. I saw 59 and a half out there as well. I'm not sure if it still is, but this is one of these teams where they really don't like Jalen Wright. First of all, he wasn't even active last week. They're not a fan of him. They decided not to trade D.Achane or any of the key pieces of the offense. And Mike McDaniel said Tua is still starting. This is a team where, they're out of it. They're not going to win anything, but it's still a home game against a divisional opponent. You're not just going to you're not going to lay down. Maybe they get smoked, but you're not going to lay down in the sense of okay, let's just give Ollie Gordon 60% of the rushing attempts here, right? It's still a home game. It's still a divisional team. You can still play spoiler. I do think that D.Achane in a spot like this looks good. It was we don't have a ton of props up. It's Wednesday afternoon. It was one of the first spots that I personally looked at as well. And, they have Ed Oliver's on the IR. Joey Bosa is questionable.
Daquan what Jones, about John Oliver? Is he just NA?
Yeah. Pam Oliver as well. Josh Oliver is the one I was thinking of. Josh Oliver is the tight end for the Vikings. But I'm with you. I like Achane here.
So last week, one of the ones I brought up when we were talking about who do you like on the Chiefs, and then you're like, do you like anyone on Buffalo? I said I like the under on Coleman and the over on Kincaid. Did Coleman end up going over? I don't even know. I don't remember him.
Coleman had a terrible game. He had 2 for 17.
There you go. So he stayed under, but the other guy whose yardage total was very low and is proving to be the tight end that they thought he was and that we saw traces of in his rookie year, we talked about D.Kincaid. Had a massive game. He was used kind of like I thought he would be in that game. So you got to think he's had a couple breakout games this year. You wouldn't think that they leave him in some dinky low range. That, my friends, is a dinky low range. 32 and a half receiving yards. I typically, for props, like if this one doesn't hit, the rig crowd will say it's where D.Kincaid was approached by, Philly Tomasino, and then he convinced him to check himself out of the game early. But yeah, so this is what when I click, if I lose, I go, yeah, the Italians got me. So I'm going to go with D.Kincaid with the Italian horn associated with it over 32 and a half.
Yeah, I love it. He's good. D.Kincaid is good. And this is not a good Miami defense. I'm on board with that one. I got another one that's not out yet, but I figured, maybe you'd have some interest in talking about this. Assuming Davis Mills starts, I think you're going to see Nico Collins get absolutely peppered in this game. I don't see why you wouldn't. I know Christian Kirk is healthy again, but you're not getting big contributions with Nico and Kirk back. You're not going to get big contributions from guys like, Jaden Higgins or Jalen Noel. Those two guys, they'll see some time on the field, but not enough. They're not going to get targeted enough. If you're Davis Mills and you're a backup quarterback, what do these backup quarterbacks typically do? You pepper the guy who is reliable. And we saw that last week. Nico Collins had 11 targets, solid game against, albeit no Patrick Surtain, but still a good secondary and a good defense for the Denver Broncos. This is a Jacksonville team that just coughed up 29 to the Raiders last week, almost all of that in the second half. I wish we had a number on Nico right now. I would love
It's going to be 72.5. That's what it's going to be.
I'm going to say 68.5. We'll see.
All right. I can't wait till our showcases. I can't wait to see who wins this showcase on The Price is Right. And we can have AI insert Bob Barker giving us an absurd prize.
Let's see. Would you say 72.5? I say 68.5.
Did you enjoy those, by the way? I sent you the Barkers.
Oh, they were great. Yeah, they were awesome. The AI generated ones. Yeah, they were good.
Yeah.
Do you have any sides that you're interested in?
Okay, well, this one definitely is.
I like the Bucks here, though.
Yeah, because this is one where you just talked about the Bills. They can't really lollygag because they're chasing Vrabel and New England. But as I've said about these Patriots, they're like the anti-rat. They're rodent control. They're pest control. Every single situation where you feel like, oh, man, you better be careful. I mean, I know you were on them when they beat the Browns, but, everybody was on them at that point. Many of these games, they've gone into play against Tennessee. Everyone thought, oh, my God, Tennessee, everyone's on the Patriots going into Tennessee. It's such a ratty looking line. Patriots came through that. They keep coming through in spots where it looks like they shouldn't. And this is another one of those. If I was glancing at this quickly, this looks like your average person's going, are you nuts? They're leading the division. They're better than the Bills. I mean, they're tops in the AFC. They're as good as they get. You got to take the Patriots here. You nuts? I'm even taking the Patriots money line. Why are you taking the Bucks here? Because I agree with you, but I'm not doing it simply because the Patriots have been one of the anti-rats. They've been a Dan pleaser all year long.
Totally get that. And not great that Bucky Irving and Chris Godwin did not practice. But one of the big things is, do we get Luke Gedeke back? I saw a stat that he this year, or all of last year, Gedeke only allowed, and I'm pulling it up right just to see if he practiced today, only allowed like 17 total pressures all season long. His backup since week 3 has allowed 32 pressures. It's a big deal if Gedeke is back or not. Really big. But more than that, you look at the Patriots, and I think the Patriots are a good football team. They did beat the Bills, and they beat them in Buffalo, but they beat Atlanta, Cleveland, Tennessee, New Orleans, Carolina. They killed Carolina. They lost to Pittsburgh. They beat Miami, and they lost to the Raiders. Now, it's a long season, so early season, you go, all right, if they play the Raiders now, they beat them, I would agree with you. But you're getting the Bucks inside of 3 at home, coming off of a bye. It just feels like you're going to run into a tough spot here if you're the Patriots. They don't have much of a run game. I know the Bucks are somewhat a pass funnel defense, but I kind of like the Bucks in this spot at home, off of a bye, inside of a field goal. To your point, it feels like everybody likes the Patriots right now, and it's hard not to. But I think the Bucks are the type of team where you see Baker Mayfield bounce back from a couple bad performances and sneak this win out at home.
Can I offer an alternative? If somebody wants to bet the Patriots, they go, I don't care, man. You've been telling me this the whole time. I'm taking them. I'm winning.
Yeah, fire away.
The alternative you just mentioned, it's been somewhat of a pass funnel defense. You had mentioned that Baker Mayfield, after the bye, going to have a good bounce back game and things would look good there. Is it possible that this game, like many other Bucks games that we've seen so far, can kind of I don't want to use the term shootout, but can it go back and forth somewhat?
Yeah, it certainly could. Absolutely. Anytime Baker Mayfield is involved, the answer is yes.
Well, if
Right?
that's the case, then can I just take D.Maye to throw for 2 touchdowns in a
Yeah,
potential losing effort? And
definitely.
that way we can kind of get the same exact thing, because 2.5 points, you can't do anything with those 2.5 points. It's either 3.5
No.
or you're taking them by the money line. So
Yep.
my alternative here, if you can, we take D.Maye over 1.5 touchdowns. He's playing incredible. He's got the full confidence. He's got hot girls dressing up on him as Halloween. What a life he's probably living right now. How
Yep.
much would you pay for that life out there, audience? Don't tell me the answer, because you don't have enough to enter that life, but you do have enough to take this pick right here. Over 1.5 touchdowns for
I like
D.Maye.
it.
It seems good. I don't know. I feel like somewhat of a Dan giving these kind of, like, I feel like
Yeah,
everyone's
but
going
they
to
don't
say
have a
that.
run game. They don't really have much of a run game, and it's really tough to run on the Tampa Bay Bucks. I actually think this is a pretty nice bet. I might bet this myself, honestly. They they don't really have a run game right now, and I don't know if Ramondre Stevenson's going to be healthy. It's hard to run against the Tampa Bay Bucks. No, I think this is a pretty nice spot. I'm with you.
I like that. And I don't know if this qualifies as a Dan. It probably does not, because when somebody throws up a donut, usually they're not going to get much of the public sentiment. Maybe that's where someone like you will be like, okay, you took the Brock Bowers value. I mean, coming in 51 yards. I mean, that's a really low number. Now, let's say he had 1 catch for 8 yards. His number this week probably would have been, 44.5? But he had a
Yeah.
huge week, so it goes up. You have huge weeks, your number goes up. You have awful weeks, sometimes it goes down. I think we've seen a slight decrease here with Rome Odunze, who had a full bagel.
I
Now, I
have
know
him too this week.
his
Good buy
dad's
low.
out there posting, pro football focus metrics about his kid being open. He's going the Beckham dad route. Do you see a bounce back here for Rome Odunze, 52.5 receiving yards?
Yeah, I think this is the type of spot where if you're betting it, you ladder it up to 100. Yeah. I
Simple
mean,
enough. That's all I wanted to hear, a yay or nay. If
I
there
think
was
so.
reason
Yeah,
for
I had him on the
concern.
list.
Okay, so that's one we're definitely going to check out his alts, see where they're at. And then lastly, because, you never really want to forget about them, are there any donkeys that stand out to you on this donkey chart right here? It's been a little bit, but I know a couple people still ask for them. Who's on those donkey charts this week? Just got this right before we started filming, and you could see some of these picks here. I find it very, 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 very weird that the Patriots wouldn't be on there. I find that very weird. However, like, I would have guessed that they were there. Any of these stand out to you? Like, I wouldn't do that if I were you.
That Browns Jets game, I'm just staying away from. The Browns road favorites with Dylan Gabriel. Cardinals have been playing good football right now, and Jacoby Brissett looks good. 6.5's a little scary there. Eagles plus 2.5 too. That might be the trap spot. Like everybody's down on the Packers. Tucker Kraft is out, for the season. Packers might just win that game, and all they need to do is win it by a field goal. A lot of games on there that I'm staying away from this week, I'll tell you that much. But I do like the Lions, man. I do like the
Oh,
Lions.
there you are. Well, you
And
got
look
that
at that,
teaser.
93%. That's
Woo!
crazy. That makes me
93.
not like the Lions.
I think at that point, if you liked it, and you just get on the coaster, all right? You know what's happening. You know where you're being taken. I think you just got to get on there and take the ride with those Dans and see where it ends up. Yeah, there's a lot of potential Reds. I saw the Panthers having covered -5.5 or being a home favorite in like 5 years or something like that, and when they've been a favorite over 3 points. So I don't think I'll be touching many of those. But then again, I do not touch many spreads like that whatsoever, unless there's a special occasion. And unless you got anything else, Dave, that's what we got. I found as many props as I could tucked in there early in the week. I'm sure there will be more that you'll have out there. I know you post them on Tail, so just remind everyone once again where they can get your latest sniffs when it comes to the NFL.
Yeah, man. Tails.bet or download the app. Andy has the link in the description. I use everything on the app, but all my bets free all year long. We're having a good season, so let's see if we can keep it rolling. Come over, give me a follow, turn on notifications, and check out everybody else over there on a platform that we're building something pretty cool. So, yeah, check it out. Everything free, and we'd love to have you over there.
Definitely. All right, Dave, we'll be back next week, week 11. Look forward to it. I will talk to you then. Good luck this weekend. Don't ruin that teaser, Detroit Lions.